Hey, what is up, everybody? Hunter Orrell here, and this is the Morning Mint. Back from another hiatus, but we're slowly getting to having a fully built studio in Los Angeles. And then, as you can see, this is not the normal video setup that we've been using for the last few live streams and videos that we've done back in Maryland for business here. You can see I've got my Creature World, shout out Danny Cole, sweater on. And yeah, I'm vibing. Good to be back. Not enjoying the cold. I'm already missing some warm weather on the West Coast. A lot to talk about today. Some news. More. I just wanted to look at the market. And also a little bit of a news segment, just answering some questions from people. I want to offer the ability to let people ask some questions and give my insights into what I think I'm seeing. Just a quick look at the front page for OpenSea today. I will say, obviously, Invisible Friends has been like the talk of the town. MFers also being a huge talk of the town with their floor price rising over 10x over the last couple weeks. Tubby Cats coming out through Ratwell, drawing a little bit of FUD from the crypto Twitter community and the NFT Twitter community kind of colliding. And I think a little bit of each trying to feel each other out. Three Landers has been one that's also been on my radar. I think today is the day I'm going to do a little bit more research. If it passes my due diligence there, I think that might be something I pick up. Real quick, we'll just look through stats here on OpenSea. Just check it out. NFT Worlds has been up top for the last few days. Board Yacht Club now down to 90. I will say we are in this bit of a NFT market depression right now. We are obviously seeing a lot of stress on the market. I think the Ethereum price kind of volatility between 2,000 and 3,000 that we seem to have found ourselves in is one thing, but on top of that, geopolitically, right? There's so many things happening. If we actually look at the the large scale right now, I think geopolitically right now with Russia, Ukraine, U.S., China tensions, everybody seems to be kind of going back and forth. I believe there was invasion this morning. That is obviously something that's going to impact all markets. I think also de-risking on some of the banks and funds on Wall Street looking to de-risk high-risk assets like cryptocurrency, which are up tremendously over the last year, is something that is obviously a conversation as well. On top of that, also Fed meeting. I think we're looking at a March 15th or 16th, whatever that Wednesday is. Fed having another meeting. We'll have an update on where we stand with rate hikes. I know a lot of this isn't, really NFT information. I'm sure a lot of you are, NFT focused and you don't care, but it does impact the market. Even if we're looking at a Clone X, how can, Russia and Ukraine have anything to do with Clone X? Obviously these are very expensive, high cost assets. And the second there's political unrest or war breaks out, what are you going to rather have, money in the bank or a Clone X? I think we also saw this from Keyboard Monkey's Twitter thread last night saying if you have made money, make sure you take some off the table. If you think you're going to get rich purely off of JPEGs, there might be some thought process there where making sure you've allocated money or weighted and balanced your portfolio in the most responsible way. I obviously track my portfolio. I hope everybody else who's listening is tracking their portfolio. Quick look at Luxrare right now. Obviously Meebit's still at the top. It's interesting. I wanted to bring this up just to talk about price difference on platforms right now. If we look at Luxrare and we look at what we have on OpenSea right now, we can take something like Bored Ape Yacht Club, a floor of 89 on Luxrare now, and this hasn't always been the case. Luxrare now has a cheaper floor, so some arbitrage opportunity there, possibly within different trades. Obviously, if you buy for 87 after fees, you're looking at about, we'll just say 10%. you're going to end up, well, actually, take that back. Uh, there could be some arbitrage opportunities. Obviously, if you're selling, not so much, because if you sell for 89, you're only getting about 80 of that after fees. But we can see that there is beginning to be a little bit of a price discrepancy between the two marketplaces. Obviously, this is where I get really excited about aggregators, when we can look at a multitude of marketplaces and private marketplaces, such as what Larva Labs does, where they have their own marketplace, completely separate from a common marketplace like you would find with LooksRare or OpenSea. Big news last night coming out with Bored Ape Yacht Club's Mega Mutant reveal. I believe there's only one more, or there's two more left. Loopify currently saying that, and I agree with this, the Golden Mega will be the number one ape sale across all collections. I think it'll be one of the largest collectible, not including, I would say, like, if we look at the all the collections for Bored Ape Yacht Club, that will be, when we look back, the number one sale, if that ever does sell. So 3.6 million. They drank the M3 serum, and this is what came out. Tens of thousands of viewers tuning into that, as well as tons of media coverage. Huge stuff happening there. Jumping over to flips.finance. I love using flips, just because I feel like I get a better sense of what's happening. I think when we start to look at 24-hour market periods, that's probably the best feel for like what's happening in the moment. But I do like to look at trends and get an idea for trends. So if we look at like the 30-day real quick on flips, I still think that this is a great indicator that we haven't really hit a downward trend. I think floor prices are obviously depressed a bit over what we've seen maybe the last couple weeks. But I do think that we did have a huge run up into the beginning and middle of February. We're currently coming off of that. I don't think that's too hard to see from the data here. But I do think that as Ethereum kind of figures its way out, geopolitical things figure their way out, and I think a lot of hype starts to die down, real market prices are going to start playing their way in. I've talked about this on previous videos, where the value of an asset is based on different layers. You have like a layer one, which is foundational, like true fundamental value of like, what is this asset worth by the fundamentals. So like a Bored Ape Yacht Club, or it's maybe easier with like a Cool Cat. Okay, a Cool Cat yields X amount of milk. Milk is at this price. That yields X dollars a year at a multiple of X. This cash flows and is valued at this. And then you have other layers like layer two, which I would consider stuff like utility access, additional things that technically don't have like a real way of pricing, but add value to it. That would be your next layer. And then the third layer, which I think is where we're seeing a lot of the prices that were, the high points, which is hype, momentum, and kind of speculation. Like when we saw Azuki into the teens or the higher teens, that price point, in my opinion, was, the third layer being priced in heavily, where we saw lots of momentum, speculation, hype, people driving that price up. Now, when that third layer disappears, now you go back to, okay, what is the fundamentals? What's the access? What's the utility? What's the value of that? I think that's what we're seeing today, as a lot of that craziness starts to go out the window. But yeah, real quick, we'll roll through this. Last 7 days. Let's look at the last 24 hours. We'll go a little bit harder in scope, and let's look at floor prices real quick, because I think volume, unfortunately, not always the best when we're looking at like the 24-hour, and also when there's things that have prices of 89 versus stuff that's like 0.5. Although I might want to double check on how I'm thinking about that. Anyway, the floor for a lot of things, as you can see, we have a ton of red still in the last 24 hours. Over the last 7 days, even a longer time frame, still a ton of red. But for the last 24 hours, kind of just getting a pulse on the market, we are starting to see some things kind of find their way. What's been interesting with me to me of this whole list when I look at what's happening in the market. Three landers is one of those things where usually after like reveal and mint, you see that price dive down. This is one that's actually kind of held its way. It hasn't been super hyped. I haven't been spammed about it. It does feel really strong. It does feel like it's one of those things that could have a 4 or 5 floor. Obviously, like I said at the beginning of this video, I want to do some more research into this, feel it out, and see what's happening there. Floor price currently on other things. Well, here, I might have misclicked there. It's interesting if we look at Board Ape Yacht Club, or like 89, Mutant Ape Yacht Club 18. I'm sure dogs are in around like 8 to 10. Here it was 7. Okay, so a little bit lower than I expected. Um, you know, this is, I feel like we're getting into buying territory, back into those layer 2, the level 2 utility and fundamental pricing. We haven't dipped below that in my opinion. And so if I'm thinking of like, how do I trade right now, my thought process would be like, okay, where is layer 3, that hype, that momentum stuff going to come in the next couple of months? And in my mind, it's maybe Cool Cats. Like, Cool Cats has struggled, and Cool Pets have really struggled to get something out. The game hasn't come out. I think people are getting a little antsy not having something. But obviously, like, the big things are, we know Pixel Vault has said there's more announcements to come. What is that going to be? I think that's something where we see a catalyst and lots of people coming in, really breaking into the industry, big announcements. And then like things that change the game where everybody's like talking about it, and it's very exciting. So Pixel Vault assets are one. I think that we're also due for something with Board Ape Yacht Club, obviously around the token, the game, announcements around what's happening in Miami. Looking through this, what else? Oh man, like I said, Cool Cats and Cool Pets. So and then like there's stuff like Treeverse, and we'll get into this because this is actually one of the questions that was asked. But like things that have such a long time horizon, there's obviously building happening. Those are harder, right? Like you might have an announcement, it's like, oh, there's something happening, but it's really not going to drive this whole like, oh wow, it's really going to run up. It's really a game changer. Yeah, or you just don't know when that's going to come. That's again just how I'm thinking of like, where if I want to get into something, I know there's some hype coming down the road, what's gonna happen. um okay, so let's hop into some questions real quick. I'm enjoying doing these kind of questions where people can ask, hopefully give some feedback and provide some value to those that are listening. So our good friend here, Neil, Farmer Neil, asking, would love to hear you speak about brands and the ones that have done it right, and the ones that have also done it wrong in Web3. Well, I will say this: the brands that have entered Web3 and done it right, in my opinion, number one and cannot be touched, and probably has utilized Web3 in the most interesting way and established itself as a huge player in my mind, is the Hundreds and Atom Bomb Squad. And the reason I believe that is because in the way that I think about this is that if you're a brand right now, you need to be thinking of this not in a way of how do we reinvent ourselves, or how do we start from scratch, or how do we break out and create our very own separate identity in Web3. I think what the Hundreds and Bobby and Ben did was, how do we grow and add another like layer of, what I'm saying layer so much, how do we add that extra layer of our brand and identity and our culture, and build that even stronger, build a stronger community through Web3 technology. We've seen this with every execution. They've been a player, they're working with other projects, they're throwing the party, becoming cool. They've been able to execute their project. They're super community focused in how they communicate, token gating, um, you know, throwing parties, being like genuinely being part of the community that they want to grow within, bring people into their own ecosystem, and obviously sell to. But they're doing such a great job. I think if I was going to do a case study on any company right now in Web3, and just analyzing how Web3 has changed their brand and what it's done for how not only customer perception, new customer perception, old customer perception, it's the hundreds. Um, I think they've really just executed really well. Another one would be West Coast Customs, a company and a brand that obviously was, at least in my age, like a really hot thing. And then it kind of fell off in my vision. I think that they're taking this as a way to really re-enter the vision of a lot of people and say, look, now we're not just somebody that does apparel and does licensing and does obviously very cool work to cars, but now we're a digital company that's producing these assets and a utility, and they can actually use that to target a younger demographic and make those kids think of West Coast Customs as cool and something they would display and put, instead of having posters on their walls of West Coast Custom cars, uh, cars in their wallets or in their garages, per se, virtual garages that they think are cool. Some other companies I think have done really well. Adidas taking a different route, instead of putting out their own thing, collaborating with other brands, and being part of it. Obviously, their members from the team being very active, like Ben Mayer White, working with Pixel Vault, doing a drop, providing value, and they're actually providing infrastructure, which is like the t-shirt and hoodie design, to other companies. Again, they're kind of playing what the Hundreds has done, but I think the Hundreds has gone harder, established itself harder, and said, hey, we're part of the community, not just going to come in and say, oh, we're going to make you cool and then dip. I think the Hundreds is like in it to win. A couple other that have been interesting from me, and no hate here, but Anheuser-Busch has done it with Bud Light, Budweiser, and Pepsi now. Each of these, I think, are in the very early phases. I don't think we've seen them play out. And that's why I can't tell you if they've done it right or wrong. I think that they've entered it. They've obviously, all these companies have a huge amount of risk to do this, right? There's levels of risk to enter this space, to take your brand's image and potentially have a misstep that could cause lots of people to have a bad take on it. And it also very much could have something happen where now you have a bunch of customers that bought something expecting huge value and there isn't. Obviously, Vayner is behind this, so I have full faith that we'll see crazy things and very cool things happen. I think it's just very early, but I will applaud Bud Light, Pepsi, Budweiser, and Vayner for taking that leap and kind of showing the community, hey, we're here to play. They've been very active in the community. But I do think we're in the early innings for each of these companies. So those are ones that you can study and kind of look at how they're progressing and see what happens. I do wish they had done something like the nouns drop with the Pepsi and the other collections was very cool. I wish they could have done a little more, but I'm sure there's limitations to timeline and legal and all that stuff, because as we know, things are moving very fast and the corporate world does sometimes struggle to keep up. I also just want to make this comment because when I was doing some kind of like quick background study for this, one of the biggest things that I thought about in the early days of last year, I remember in August when I was kind of thinking through how you would do this with a beverage company, right? There's all different types of companies and brands in the space. But I think one thing, if you're a company listening, or you're looking at a company that's doing something, I think the wrong way to do this currently with Web3 is to say, how do I make people buy my NFT, and then we'll give them something, or like we'll just give them like a bag of chips, right? I think a lot of like consumer packaged goods companies and brands should think, how do we elevate our base product, or reward our customers with a digital product. And I think using that digital product to bring them into a community, to make them from not only a customer or an audience member who's like watching, consuming, to a community member, somebody who is going to go out and talk about the brand and love the brand and explain it, interact with you, interact with other customers, grow stronger. I think we have to remember that NFTs and Web3 are allowing us to build the ultimate communities, fan clubs, and and strengthen those like we haven't seen before. So, really excited for that. Customer loyalty, reward customers, and building the brand. If you see a company doing that, amazing. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody who's done it terribly. Obviously, there's going to be some that come in and do it wrong, but for right now, I'd focus on the good stuff. Great question, Neil. Thank you so much. The next question that we had was from Vitals asking, would love to hear your thoughts on projects that have been around for 6+ months and are continuously building despite having depressed floor. What would it take for the market to care? Now, I think this is a great example of just the issue, a fundamental issue that we have in this space, which is people want stuff now. They want to have, like, we're in a market that values like now value or flippability or utility that can be used now. Unfortunately, we're not in a market that says, okay, this is going to be valuable in 7 months or 12 months when the game comes out. And if it is going to do something like that, I think Wolf Game, one of the best examples of this, where hey, our core product is far out, but we're going to do very small things that are actually entertaining, actually keep the community engaged. They've done well to kind of negate that depressed floor. But I would say their floor is depressed from where the initial hype and where that initial hey, we're actually staking and there's game and there's risk. But I think we really are in a market that if you're not putting out stuff, keeping the community engaged, you're the only way for the market to really care is if you give a reason for the market to like actually come in and have something to do instead of just saying, okay, I see the vision where you're going, you're building stuff, but now what? But I also think that this is kind of like telling the story of like what you're building, interacting. I think this has been a theme in a lot of the questions I've read lately, which is like, how can you explain what you're doing? How can you bring an attachment to somebody saying, okay, wow, they've made so much progression. That's the next step. Oh, wow, I love that. And ultimately, that's only going to happen if you can show the market. So that means putting out content, putting out updates, making sure that your community that is focused is very, very like core and very focused on what you're doing. And then they start to like talk and spread. And I think over time, what you see is if you're really putting out stuff that the market likes, the market will care. I think it's just a hard way of, and a long about way of saying, for the market to care, you need to build stuff that the market likes, right? You can't convince somebody to like something if the market just doesn't like it. And currently, like I said, the market cares about stuff that's flashy, is going to be cool. And we're not in a market, in my opinion, right now. I could be wrong. You could disagree. That's valuing utility as much as it ought to be. I do think that we're not valuing really hardworking teams that are executing correctly. So if you're a team that's building, I would say keep your head down, keep building, take that chip on your shoulder and just prove everybody wrong. And at some point when your core holders or believers for the last 6 months, 12 months, they've built their bags up and they've been there and they've been around, they'll get the fruits of the labor when everybody realizes, oh crap, we haven't been paying attention to the right thing. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm a little all over the place, and hopefully that can, really allow you, if you're a part of a team that's doing this or you're somebody who's holding an asset, understand that if there are really good steps happening and progress happening, that's a good sign. That's great. That's bullish. And if they're building something that the market actually is going to like, or the market is like, and they just don't see it, that's a good sign. So thank you, Vitalis, for the question. Next question from Genjo, NFTs. Since we are working on cultural photography NFTs, how do you think is best way to approach community and collectors? In my opinion, the best way to approach community and collectors is to be part of the community. Again, a really like obvious answer in my mind, but like, and I'm not trying to like give these like, oh, like, don't you know it? But I think this is a really common misconception right now in the market where people are coming in and they say, great, let me build this and just they'll come. The community and collectors will come. And circling all the way back to our first question, look what the Hundreds has done. They did not just come in and drop a project and dip. Bobby was in spaces weeks, like a month ahead of ever dropping the project, and he's here still. He's established himself as part of the community, and he wasn't just in there showing his project, or at all really showing his project. He was in there talking, discussing culture, mechanics of the ecosystem, what's good, what's bad, what needs to change, what he's excited about, commenting on people's works, commenting on what people think of what he's done, really just being original and providing value. I think if you are in photography, let's give this an example, going and just commenting on other photographers' works, joining photography conversations, commenting and finding collectors and trying to start conversations with them. As you become an actual member, more eyes come to you, and now your collection, your product, your company has eyes on it. I think you have to. The best approach to building, involving or entering the community and the collectors that you want to get in touch with is going and doing it. Going and being a voice, part of the community, active. It takes real work. It takes real time, but that's how you do it. It's not something that you can just click a button and say, great, I'm part of the community and people want to buy from me or be part, use my company or my product now. It takes real effort being part of the community. So I hope you can put in the time. Anybody who's listening to this, I think once you become a part of the community, and you're not just there shilling and asking for the sale, people are there and they're going to look to give you the sale because you're providing value or they like you or they see what you're doing and they want to support you. That's how I think you need to think about it. Our last question from Cookie Biscuit asking, GM, thoughts on Polygon and the many artists in the space getting negativity because of using Polygon instead of Ethereum? I think we're in a moment. Again, everything is current. The market right now is obviously valuing layer one and pure, your pure Ethereum. I think what we're going to see happen over the next few months, and this is an opinion, speculation, but it's also kind of the pattern I see, is that over the next few months, we're going to see layer twos become not only for scalability reasons, but also for execution reasons of certain mechanics. Layer two become this really hot topic. And I think we're going to see lots of NFT projects that are on networks like Arbitrum, stuff using Flow and Polygon, and Immutable X really start to like, oh wait, people are collecting there. Oh, it's not so bad. I did an interview recently, and one of the things that I said was I hated that when I was younger or growing up, not that long ago, I saw people using Venmo and was like, like that's stupid. Why wouldn't you just carry cash? And it was because I never went and tried it. And I think a lot of the people and a lot of the negativity right now is because people haven't gone and tried it and they're not using it. I also think a lot of the negativity that you see Polygon get is because Polygon is currently like the spam email of NFTs where everybody's, open seeds are just cluttered with hundreds, if not thousands of Polygon just spam being minted to their wallets. And obviously this is like a feature and a bug where because Polygon is so cheap, you can send thousands of things, which sucks. But at the same time, like that's a good sign. Like if you're doing play to earn, and that's kind of the big other momentum is play to earn. Allows these layer twos allow mechanics where you can do things very cheaply, very quickly. And so I think as more people start to interact with these layer twos, they become more accepted in the eyes of collectors and the community, and we'll probably start to see many artists that have been minting on Polygon be appreciated. So there's nothing wrong with layer twos. I think that right now there's a stigma. Obviously, like I've said to everything else, the market will decide this. And I think my gut instinct is that the market will, after using it and seeing how things play out, their value those chains down the road. I hope this answers your question, and I hope all these answers were helpful. If you have comments, questions, or want to add something to it, please leave a comment below. And thank you everybody to asking questions. I did want to quickly look because I think this is always an interesting indicator to the market. Looking at punks, punks have been super interesting with the Larva Labs drama that we've seen regarding the V1 and V2 collection. For those who don't know, the punks that we see day to day right now and are listed on Larva Labs website are version 2s. There was a version 1 that was essentially overwritten by Larva Labs. I don't know if overwritten's the term because they still exist. And there was all drama about Larva Labs saying the V1s that people had in their wallets were not real Larva, not the real punks, and these are the real punks, and they're being DCMA takedowns, drama as usual with Larva Labs. But we do look at punks as kind of a overall market kind of health. Where do we stand? What's the floor at? What's sales activity like? And I would say we're in an interesting point where we've kind of come back to this like resting number in my mind, where we've seen this all the way up at 140. We've seen this all the way down at one point I think in the mid 50s, and then days ago I think we were in like the 70s, 80s, and now we're really kind of chilling. I again finding a base period, and it kind of just feels like this lull period. Everybody's saying we're crashing, it's bear market. It feels like a lull period. It feels like we're again just getting this foundation, and wherever we go from here is going to be like the up or down. So I think we've reset ourselves. The market's kind of taking a breath. No insane sales on punks, at least from what I saw looking through this quickly. And I also remember back in August when I would do a video and I have to go like 3 pages back for punk sales. Punk sales have slowed down. A lot of the, they've obviously gone up in price, but I think a lot of people are also going through the thought process of like, okay, I have the ETH to buy a punk. Do I want a punk? And then being kind of asked the question, well, if I buy a Bored Ape Club for 85 right now, what do I get versus a VR punk right now for 85? Well, one gets me a punk and part of that community, and I'm collecting it, and it's an OG project. Great. The other one gets me potentially, ApeCoin. It also gets me access to events. It gets me access to other things. It also it sounds like there's going to be utility for play to earn. It gets me token gated merch access. So many other things. There's a actual utility there. It's also a lifestyle brand. I want to like really drive that home that Bored Ape Yacht Club in my mind is not art. It's not a collectible. It is a lifestyle. Well, like the overall thing is a lifestyle brand, as you would look at Gucci or like Prada or Fendi. Like it's cool. It has clout factor to it. And they're obviously not playing in just the look at what we have and look at our history and look where we launched. They're trying to build on top of that. They're trying to bring additional value to their holders. So just another kind of dynamic. And I think that also shows that we're starting to value utility, access, that lifestyle, that brand value a little bit more in the market. But obviously I don't think the market's fully gone there because we have a lot of these scams. We have a lot of these hype things coming out that are still kind of selling out, and people aren't going, okay, I want a ton of utility with some value down the road, or something that I can flip, instead of they're saying, hey, I want tons of stuff that I can flip and or it's going to grow up in value. And if it had some utility, that'd be nice. I think that's the mentality right now. Real quick, looking at the market for crypto right now. We are recovering, and like I said, there are some geopolitical things with Ukraine, Russia, U.S., and China right now, and a bit of an invasion and tensions there. So I think in the days leading up to this, we've seen kind of that like fear, the I think invasion and big events happened, and we saw a little bit of a real rundown, like 2,500 on Ethereum, and I think like 3,600 maybe on Bitcoin. Don't quote me on that, but 2,500 on Ethereum. Now we're recovering about 10% from those lows. It looks like. I think this is going to be we're going to be in this like sideways kind of pattern between 2 and 3. I don't see the market going completely bullish. I don't see the market going completely bearish. But in my mind right now, and this is why I've gone into some stables, not financial advice, do your own research and make your own decisions. I think there's a lot of things that if were to happen, I would see the market going down. So a Fed rate hike would send the market down, in my opinion. If Ukraine and Russia stuff were to get more intense, would send the market down. If the COVID numbers were to suddenly start going up again, as travel and as different states are opening up more and we're seeing more and more travel, that would, in my opinion, send the market lower. Um, Tech stock, earnings are, another iffy thing. I think there's just a lot of little things in my mind that do worry me. Um, but as I said, do your research. I also think that, again, another point is make sure your portfolio is balanced. Make sure you're in stables to a percent that makes you feel safe. That your NFT portfolio is a number that you feel okay with. Your liquid ETH is a number you feel okay with. Just make sure you're keeping cognizant of that. I think when people just kind of go and say, "Hey, it's up only. I don't have to worry about it. Or I'll get to it one day." Or "Hey, when this sells, I'll figure out where I stand." Or make sure you've done your taxes. Like all these like things of really having to like manage this like it's a business instead of like, "Hey, this is just kind of fun and I'm making money and I get to go out and like have fun with the money." Like I think you have to really internalize that this is a business. This is something that you have to really understand. There's other factors at play here, and just making sure you're set up for long term or longevity in the space and long term success. Super important. I hope more people talk about that and emphasize that. And that's it. Like, thank you for watching. I hope I provided some value in this video. A longer one, but I just wanted to put something out, talk about all the little things, answer some questions. Obviously, we have Invisible Friends and some other stuff going down this week. There's a bunch of other drama that we didn't get to cover involving projects that had some interesting takes on art, such as stealing the art, others doing some sketchy stuff with ETH. I know we had another thing come out about somebody with some interesting wallet activity. So many things since our last video, but I did want to just put something out. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe if you liked it, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much. Peace.